You said, I think it is hypocritical, Brian, that you have openly admitted that you're traditional in some ways and degen in others, yet you lay into your female guests for picking and choosing in what ways they would like to be traditional. You say it is not fair that a woman expects you to pay if she's not traditional, yet if you were on a date with a traditional woman, you expect her to sleep with you within the first few dates, and you refuse to marry her. Does this mean that you can pick and choose your values, but the women on your show cannot, and why?
I love that.
So, and it stumped me for a little bit, and actually I came up with this 4-dimensional, just ninja chess response, but we got Andrew here, my champion.
Uh-oh.
And look, I came up with the most smoking gun owned rebuttal to this. But because I'm feeling generous and Andrew's our special guest, I'm just going to get up for a few minutes and let Andrew take it away. Andrew, go ahead.
All right. So first, maybe we can condense the argument here, just so I understand it better. Just in your own words, can you?
Sure.
Can you explain it to me? Yeah.
So, oh gosh, now I have to think about what I said back in April. Okay. Ryan seems to dislike picking and choosing, but then he also picks and chooses. Like you can't have both. So you can't have a chaste woman that will sleep with you that same night. Like those two things I don't think are synonymous. That wouldn't make any sense to me. Like, where would you find that woman?
Why, I don't understand that, though. Why couldn't you have a chaste woman sleep with you the same night?
I just don't think that would be the typical personality or the typical choice a chaste woman would make. I think she would want to vet the
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I would think that a woman who valued chastity probably wouldn't sleep with you on the first night, but I don't see why you couldn't have a chaste woman who did.
You could. I just don't think it's likely. So I don't think that you can. Andrew, Brian can come on here and say rightly so that he thinks it's wrong for women to be promiscuous, and then expect promiscuous behavior from those women.
Oh, I see. So you're talking about the homemaker argument.
Yeah.
So the homemaker argument goes something like this, and you tell me if I'm on track here. You men are out there being promiscuous, and the more women you sleep with, the more hoes you're making because you're sleeping with those women. So at the one hand, you have the standard that women should not be promiscuous while you're out there sleeping with women, which, by the way, is the outcome of making them promiscuous, right?
Well, I think women make themselves promiscuous, but...
Well, then I don't know what the argument is then.
I think a woman would make herself promiscuous if she slept with a man on the first night. And if...
Yeah. I don't think that Brian would disagree with that.
But Brian expects women to sleep with him on the first, or even the second date. But that would still more or less be promiscuous behavior. So you can't champion.
So actually, I don't actually see a contradiction here. I think I understand where you see one. So you're seeing the idea that Brian doesn't prefer promiscuous women, but yet wants a woman to sleep with him almost immediately in their dating cycle, right?
Right. I don't.
But what's the contradiction?
Because that in itself, to me, implies promiscuous. That is a promiscuous action that she's taking, and a non-promiscuous.
He could have a virgin that he meets, and she sleeps with him on the second night.
Happens.
He can have a woman that only has a 1 body count or a 2 body count, sleeps with him on the second night. That's not promiscuous at all. I don't actually understand what the contradiction is. So let me put it this way. Let's say my position is, I don't like promiscuous women, but I'm not going to date you unless we're having sex, right? Those two are not mutually exclusive claims. So I can still not value women who are promiscuous and still want women who sleep with me almost immediately. That doesn't mean that they're promiscuous, right?
But who is more likely to sleep with you immediately?
Oh, I would say the promiscuous woman, but so what?
She's a slut and she knows it.
Well, yeah, I knew that already. But I just think in practice it's kind of a confusing double message. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that it seems to be encouraging the very culture that you don't
Well,
agree with.
I suppose I should jump in here, unless Andrew, you want to champion more.
Yeah, I just want to kind of finish this off. I don't understand how it's actually a contradiction to say I don't value promiscuity in women, right? But then also want to have sex with women early on who are not promiscuous, right? Wouldn't that be like you get the goods first? Like you were the first person who got the orange, right? Before everybody else handled it. Like, isn't that kind of the point?
But we tend to speak on this podcast with generalities. And in general, I would say that a chaste, non-promiscuous virgin, the likelihood of you finding what you want and having her sleep with you on the first date, which I will acknowledge may have happened, but the percent chance of that being likely is very low, in my opinion.
But don't you, well, wait a second. If we're speaking in generalities, then I think that you have the problem here, because wouldn't you agree that what are called, or quote, high status men are often going after the women with the very, very low body counts, and they often get them because they're high status men. And in general, most men are not high status men. And so if they're in the category of, I don't know, having like the second largest IRL podcast on planet Earth, you know, all the entailments which come with that, I'm not sure if it is, but I'm just saying if it is, wouldn't that kind of already make you outside of this kind of general theme of what most men are?
It's a fair
Like,
point.
couldn't you afford to be a little bit more selective and with your
course.
taste? Couldn't you kind of afford to have that kind of caviar taste because you no longer have the beer budget, right?
Of course, but I would expect Brian to live what he says outside of this podcast, and I don't think sleeping with women on the first night is living to the standards that he purports to think are best for society.
Well, it seems like he thinks what's best for society is that women are chaste, right? If women are chaste, then Brian doesn't have a choice, does he?
Well, actually, by your standard of what you think we ought to do, Brian wouldn't have a choice. He'd have to marry somebody to have sex.
That's right, he would, wouldn't he?
And also,
So
I would like to
that
point
would just
out-
take all that choice right away. Sounds like that would be a positive outcome for society, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think
So it
that-
sounds like if you follow Brian's advice and you're all chaste, right, and women are not giving it up, then it seems like Brian wouldn't have much of an option anyway, right?
correct.
But if the option is available for low body count women and his preference is to sleep with them early on, I still don't actually understand where the contradiction is.
Because I think if he's a man that stands on the principles that he encourages, he should not sleep with a woman until he's
what do I encourage?
I think you encourage people to, well, now I think you're considering orthodoxy, which would, you're either going to have to choose between being a monk or picking a woman.
Well, I mean, look, I agree with you that Brian shouldn't be a fucking degenerate and sleep with a bunch of chicks, okay? I agree with that. I agree with that shit. Okay, so that's my one backstab of the evening for my friend, okay? He shouldn't be a degen and sleep with a ton of chicks. I agree with that.
But I don't.
Okay?
I
Okay, but he
don't.
doesn't, right? That's true. But I'm just saying he shouldn't do that if that is what he's doing. And I do think that he doesn't value promiscuity in men. But just because he says, you know, maybe he's one of those types of guys that dates many, many, many women until he finds one he's going to have a physical relationship with. And if he expects that to be early on, it seems like a reasonable preference. I'm not sure that it's an unreasonable preference.
I suppose it could be a reasonable preference. I just don't think it's a likely preference given his other preferences of what the kind of woman he would prefer. I don't think that kind of woman overall.
Well, maybe that's why he's not sleeping around, because the preference is unlikely, right? But still available, you know what I mean? Like, there are women with low body counts who may still be available to Brian. He still may prefer to sleep with them early on. There's no actual contradiction there, though I agree from a moral standpoint. Yeah, he shouldn't be a fucking DJ. I agree with that, okay? I agree with that. He shouldn't do the DJ shit. That I agree with.
So I think in your original statement, there's definitely some, perhaps, I don't think you have a full understanding here. So I don't, in terms of expect, I don't necessarily expect a woman to sleep with me on the first date. But I don't object to it either. Don't object to it either. But also, I'm not interested in like sleeping with 2 new women a week, 3 new women a week. Like, here's my thing, right? If I want to sleep with a girl, I want there to be continuity. So if I sleep with a girl, even if it's very early on, I've already made a determination that I want to continue seeing her. There's going to be a continuity absent some like I sleep with her and then she just like goes full psycho, she would have to do something. Like it wouldn't be on me. Like if I sleep with her and then I'm just gonna dip.
But she
would
know
have to
that.
like do some crazy shit. Like, I don't know, fucking start crying and like, oh, I miss my husband. I'd be like, oh, you're married. Okay, that's a problem.
Yeah, I can accept that. But
Something
she doesn't,
crazy like that. But if I choose to sleep with a girl, there's going to be continuity. I'm going to continue seeing her. I've never been interested in these guys who just fuck a girl once and that's it. No, I'm going to continue seeing you.
But she, even though you're saying that, and I believe you,
Yeah.
that she does not necessarily know that. So, and from her perspective, she'd
Sure.
probably want to vet you and be like, oh, is he really going to stick around without the sex first?
Well, then I would ask, what's her standard been for all the previous men she slept with? Because then I'm going to feel like it's unfair treatment.
And I could totally understand that. And I could totally understand that. And I would understand why
Yeah.
you wouldn't go for those women. But I think the women you're going for, I think you should make more compromises in that respect. To be willing to wait a little longer for a quality woman
I
that
mean,
is chaste.
I would be willing to wait. Like, look, you can wait however long you want. It's just going to ultimately be a mismatch in terms of what we're looking for, and it's best we just go our separate ways. You want to wait 3 months? I don't. I'm not interested in, especially if she's had like previous sexual partners and they didn't wait. Then I'm going to feel like a sucker.
Yeah, and I totally
I don't want to be a sucker.
and I would, if I was your like friend and we were just chatting, I would totally I would say, yeah, do
Sure.
that.